Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of Two Girls, One Doc.
One Doc.
It's your girl, BD.
It's Foreign's the fiance.
And we are back.
We're back.
What are we doing today?
What is a woman?
Yeah.
God. I could do just if I wasn't so stressed out, I'd probably do a rant. That me ranting about this guy would be an episode. Could be an episode.
On its own.
Yeah. But
yeah, I feel like the whole premise of this thing is just disingenuous.
Yeah, if I had known he was a Republican, I probably wouldn't have done this documentary. Yeah, I actually genuinely wouldn't have done this documentary if I was aware that he was a Republican. I was aware that he had some unpolitically correct views, but I didn't know he was a Republican. If I had known, I really wouldn't. I'm not saying I hate Republicans, but generally, I tend to not get along with Republicans, proper right wing people in general. So if you're a bit in the middle, fine. But when you're all the way over there, I can't do it.
Yeah, I was a bit shocked when you was like, oh yeah, let's do it. And I watched the thing, I was like, oh, this is an interesting choice. But
yeah,
I said,
I didn't know he was Republican. I thought it was interesting because of the subject matter. There's a lot to talk about, but unfortunately, he wasn't well executed. So here we are.
Here we are, and here we go.
Here we go. So the documentary opens up with Matt Walsh. So if you don't know who he is, you're better off not knowing. But
who I didn't actually know who he was before this.
Neither did I. But I'll give you a quick synopsis. He is a
Republican.
Political, yeah. He's a prick. No, he's a political commentator. I guess in America you can just be anything. But that's what he is, and he's just generally I think he's just. Yeah, I guess. I think he's just generally one of those annoying people that just chats. That is his whole vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And documentary opens up with him you see him in this documentary is poorly shot. That's first and foremost. It's not great cinematography.
It's budget, yeah.
It's budget.
But then of course it's I think it's produced by him. His whatever that the company. It's not Netflix, do you know what I mean? It's not HBO, it's not any of
and
those
it's
things.
nowhere you can't even find it anywhere of substance anyway, so there you go.
Yeah.
But it opens up with him going fishing, and then somehow we just descend into are all kids trans? Is he suddenly gonna have 4 daughters and need to pay for 4 weddings, and maybe he needs to go to
he has
a therapist?
4 sons at the moment. Yeah.
And do you know what, this documentary had so much potential in the sense that the subject matter and exploring and speaking to different people.
Do you know what I thought? It reminded me of the episode we did, I Want My Sex Back, that documentary that we did. And it was about people it was ages ago. It's about people who had transitioned and wanted to detransition.
Oh right, yeah.
It's it was trying to do that, but it wasn't really trying. It basically was trying to, it had an agenda, and it was kind of trying to push this agenda under the pretense of, oh, but what about our kids?
Mm-hmm. And it's you don't give a fuck about the kids. Fuck off. And even oh god, there's so much to say. So anyways, he goes to this therapist, right? And we meet that. First of all, this documentary is just him interviewing random people and agitating them, right? So that first of all, that is the premise, unless the people agree with his opinion.
And it seems like he handpicked these people.
Yeah, he handpicked them,
which is important to note.
So there are a lot of talking heads, but I think I named the important ones that kept coming back. So we meet Gert Humphrey.
Hey everyone, it's BD coming to you from the edit. We're at the point where we're about to talk about Gert Humphrey, and during the edit I clocked that we actually misgendered them the whole time that we're talking about them. So I wanted to apologise for that and just give you a heads up that they don't actually identify as a woman. Back to the episode.
And she's a therapist, and they're sat opposite each other, and basically she is explaining that we live in a gendered world, so there's social expectations and how it affects the day-to-day, and she speaks about trans people and the ability for some women to have a penis and some men to have vaginas. So she's trying to be really open and explaining because the truth of the matter is the world today, right, can be confusing for people who didn't like who didn't grow up in that world. Like I think if you're a millennial and above, it's confusing, right? So like I guess it's Gen Z who grew up in this world where
like this is normal,
and
any Gen
open.
Zers who aren't like that, it's because of their non-Gen Z like parents or
Vibes,
grandparents or siblings, whatever, who are like
literally. But whereas when I grew up, I don't know anybody whose parents were gay. I mean, obviously you knew people who themselves were gay, but I think I don't say we were the first generation, we weren't the pioneers, but it was our generation where some of these things started being like, I guess, do you know what I mean?
feel like the fight or the generation before us that were trying to make shit happen and trying to fight for rights, it's like all of that work that they did trickled down to us, and now it's more apparent in Gen Z. So yeah, like you said, like it's not like, oh, we invented, so yeah, everyone can be non-binary, but all the people in the past who were working for that, who were either killed for it, chastised for it, whatever,
it
like
was
now
so
it's actually trickled down, so that's like, okay, great, like now this next generation are more open-minded or accepting or aware that these are possibilities.
Norms. So it's like she's trying to explain this to someone who he looks like he's I don't know what the generation before us is called.
The boomers.
Are they boomers?
I think so.
He looks like he's a boomer, right? So she's trying to explain it to him, and he's being really condescending, and he's like, oh, so if I like scented candles, so I like scented candles in Sex and the City, could I be confused? And then she even entertains this, and then she's like, you know what, for some people having certain thoughts that stem from this is the beginning of them like exploring their gender identity.
This is why I feel like, first of all, he knew what he was coming here for, and second of all, he picked these people correctly, because there are people who could have put up a good argument and still shared that lady Gert's views, but she just was the wrong one, because she was just so like overly positive, and like every time he would ask a question, oh, that's a great question, like, no, it's not a great question, he's treating you like a dickhead, like you need to match his energy and
but
come
then
with your facts.
I think that he came out looking like more of a fool. Obviously, if you believe in the narrative he's selling, you think that
of course, but I just feel like if honestly, like, you're genuinely coming to say, look, like, I don't understand where you're coming from with this, like, how can you tell me that I can just decide that I'm a woman or whatever, yeah, if he really was coming because of that, if that's what his whole whatever was, yeah, him having a conversation with someone who could literally say to him, like in the way that he would need to hear it, because she was very outsy flouncy,
but he's not trying to hear it, because basically this
exactly
guy
what I'm saying. So it's like, what's the point?
She was probably, because anybody else, they would have gotten into like a shouting match, because like he's kind of like a person where it's like he's reached his conclusion, so all he's looking for is a hypothesis or whatever that's gonna get him to what he's already decided is the truth. That's basically his whole energy.
And
I think she handled it well.
When he was like the whole like, oh yeah, I like scented candles, I like that. Okay, so what does that mean? Are you telling me men can't like scented candles and Sex in the City? They absolutely can. That's not what makes a woman. You people set up this
masculine gender, like whatever, then you come and cry tomorrow that blah blah. Now you're saying that a man, if he likes, there we go. So anyways, he's like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna go and into the street and ask people what, you know, a woman is. And like a lot of people are unable to answer this question, and it's such a loaded question within itself, because I wanted to turn around and be like, well, I wish somebody had asked him what is a man, because his definition of what a man would be is an adult male with a dick, right? Cool. But you know that like being a woman is so much more than that.
It's honestly, it's a really good point. I'm so happy that you said that. I was going to say it later, because this whole thing is like targeted at like trans women and trans women and trans women. I'm like, trans men exist, bro. Trans men exist.
And even anyways, we'll get back to that. So anyways, a lot of people can't answer, because if someone stopped me on the street and is like, oh, what's a woman, I would question it as well, because do you even know what it is? It's like somebody saying to you, what is water?
Like, no, do you know what, this is how I know that the question wasn't genuine, because in any how many essays and stuff have you written, what is this, or describe this, you'd say Oxford Dictionary describes this as blah 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 blah. However, it could be seen as this, or it could be, do you know what I mean? You never once put the actual definition, because all of this roundabout way was just to go about and say what he wanted to say, which of course we'll get to at the end, but it was just like, come on mate, like, because you saying what is a woman, what does a woman mean, what is the dictionary definition of a woman, what is a woman to you, what makes you a woman, those are all different questions.
They're all different questions. So he basically goes to meet Marcy Bowers, and I actually know about Marcy because I've watched an interview she did with Dr. Phil.
Okay.
So she's this like woman who was born a male, and I hope I'm not conflating or mixing her up, but I'm pretty sure it's her. Was born a male, lived life up until like 40 or something as a male.
I think it is her, yeah.
Yeah, and then married with kids and everything, and then transitioned. And then obviously wanted to help people through that process and started doing like a lot of work.
Yeah, because she's a surgeon, isn't she? She was a doctor the whole time, right? And then she transitioned,
yeah, which was a really lovely story. It was actually quite inspiring to watch. So she's a leading gender assigning or reassigning surgeon, right? So he starts talking about... So he's asking her questions about like the trans community, right? And then he starts talking about like, and this is the thing, like these people, so she explains a lot of stuff to him, and then he doesn't really acknowledge any of that, and he says, okay, so have you heard about the trans-abled community? So it's like you're not even taking in what she said and thinking about it and coming up with an intellectual like response. He's just like, oh, so have you heard of, because this is what basically he's already entered that room knowing what he wants to get to. He wants to discredit everything she's saying. So whatever she said, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He's already come. He's already has his conclusion. So he's like, okay, first thing out of the bag, not even checking if what he's bringing out of the bag matches the need of. So he's like, oh yeah, have you heard about the trans-abled community? And like you can just see that this woman is like exasperated, and he's like, these are basically able-bodied people who want to be disabled, and they feel like they should have the right. And she's like, that's a mental like illness. Like she's like, I'm not like, I'm not well versed in that area of medicine, but what you're describing sounds like a mental illness. And then he's like, so can you not see the correlation?
He's
and I'm just like,
the two.
What the
do you know what? There's an episode on Nip Tuck about a guy who basically is like, I feel like I'm supposed to have one leg, and goes to the doctors and he's like, oh, I want you to cut off my leg because I just feel like this. And he basically walks around like he tapes his leg up, like, you know when you're doing like that quadricep stretch where you like hold your leg, he tapes his leg like that, and walks around on crutches with one leg. And
that leg's probably gonna die off soon anyway.
So this is then the doctors are like, I'm not cutting off a healthy limb, like no doctor's going to agree to do that. And so then he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna shoot it off, and they were like, no, don't fucking do that. Anyway, he shoots it off, and then they have to cut it off for him anyway.
On Nip Tuck?
On Nip Tuck, yeah.
So he shoots it off, comes back, and they cut it off?
Yeah.
But it's a mental illness though, no? Like, had he seen a therapist before this time?
Yeah, I think he had, because that's what they said to him. They were like, go and see, like, you know, let me know if anyone remembers this episode. They're like, yeah, go and see someone, like, talk to someone. And he was like, it doesn't matter who I talk to, like, this is who I am.
But wait, so when he cut it off, how comes he came back to their hospital to get it off? Because they're not
not to their hospital. He shot his leg off. He shot himself in the leg, and so then he has to go to A&E, and then they cut it off. Because they had to cut it off, because now it's, you know.
So we're in Aberdeen, Washington, right? And we meet this guy, Don Suka. And it's just like, this just shows you that you go and you dig up like this dinosaur, right? And you start asking a dinosaur questions about modern world. And then you use that to reaffirm. And does this not tell you anything? It's like going and asking my grandma about gender identity. Like, I'm not expecting her to understand or like...
Or even want to understand.
Or even need to, because it's so far removed from her reality.
Some of them though, like I remember having a patient, this was recent, this was this year, and he was talking, sometimes patients just talk about their lives and stuff, and then he said something, and he was like, mentioned his son. Oh no, it was to do with his name. I don't remember what his name was, to do with his name. And then he was like, oh yeah, my son was Junior, but I shouldn't say son, he's my daughter now. And I was like, oh, so she? And he was like, yes, she's my daughter now. And so it was like, you could see that he did not understand it. You could tell that in his mind he was like, I don't know what the fuck, but this is what my daughter wants, and so now this is how I'm going to refer to her. And you could tell that like it's still taking some getting used to for him, which is still okay, like, you know.
But just like literally, where the fuck is Aberdeen, Washington, first of all? And then like you go to the depths of this place that like...
Not all Aberdeenians.
I'm sorry, not all, And then you go to this place that like literally I didn't even fucking know existed, right? And then you find like this dinosaur, right?
This one guy,
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous. So he has gone viral in this video because he misgendered a councilwoman. And he says it's bogus if someone decides they're a gender different from what they're assigned at birth, and he's too old, so he doesn't care about people's feelings, so he's going to say what he wants. Which, to be honest, he sounds like a Nigerian elder in many ways.
It's the generation, isn't it, more than the culture?
Yeah. So Matt asks...
You're not a scientist, you're not a gender studies major, or are you?
No.
Okay. How do you know that you're a man?
How do I know that I'm a... I guess because I got a dick.
He said, I don't know, because I got a dick.
And this is what Matt has been waiting for his whole life. All he wants is for someone to say, like, your gender identity is based off of
your genitalia.
The genitalia.
Because if I come now and I chop your dick off, does that mean that you're no longer a man?
Help me ask him.
Because just by that logic, like, forget trans, forget whatever, yeah. If you're telling me that your whole manhood is in your dick, if I cut off your dick, so does that mean now you're not a man?
But this is the problem. A lot of men's manhood is rooted in stupid things, which is why when those things are taken away, they struggle. Like, so we meet Michelle Forcier, and she is one of the doctors that prescribes like gender hormones or blockers and things like that. And they're talking about kids transitioning, and she basically explains that some kids figure out their identity like pretty early. And she explains that her job is to listen carefully to these kids and take them through the story of like that, and listen to their story of their gender identity. And he basically says, okay, well, some kids believe in Santa Claus, so how can you take what they say about gender seriously? And it's like, parents like this are scary, right? Because I'm not saying that the second your kid comes to you and says, oh, I feel like a boy, or I feel like a this or that, yeah, that you have to redefine their whole world. But the fact that you do not see your child as an autonomous being with thoughts and feelings and whatever, like, I find that scary. And the reason that kids believe in Santa Claus is because it's the like reality you have sold to them.
And you've been told that. They've been told
literally,
that
so
Santa,
you've told them this
Santa.
thing. Right. So you've told them this thing their whole life, and they believe it, and now you use that as a rebuttal for why a child can't say what they feel.
And they believe it because they trust you, and you've told them. Why would I not believe that Santa's real? You just told me that he flies through the sky. I don't have a grasp on gravity and world travel and shit. I don't know. That doesn't make any sense.
But I do think that kids can understand what they feel about their own bodies.
I think so.
Like,
I think with the kids thing, the whole point of the kids thing, and he kept trying to harp on about kids is that, like, kids have feelings and stuff, and like, yeah, they should be. I don't think a kid should say, oh, I feel like I'm this, and then you say, oh great, let's get the hormones in. I don't agree. Do you know what I mean? I feel like that should be like the last line. Like, kids, there should be a certain age that you're allowed to get to before you can make such decisions. But even then, even saying that, there's arguments for that and against that, like the whole like hormones and all that kind of stuff, which I'm sure we get into later on.
Puberty can be really difficult for kids who have that, like, who feel like they're not matching their the gender.
But someone makes a point later on, and like, people have made this point before. It's like, you know, if you're, I think we've spoken about it in like a previous episode. If your son wants to wear a dress, he can wear a dress. It doesn't necessarily mean that he actually wants to be a girl. Maybe he just likes fucking wearing dresses.
Literally. And
in which case, if you let him explore that and do that, then maybe he actually doesn't want to be a girl. Maybe he just is a boy.
And this is what I was going to say. And even if you want to delay the process of a child going through the medical transition, because if my kid came to me and said to me, hey, I feel like I was born in the wrong body, I'm a boy, but I feel like I should have been a girl, I would let them explore all of that. Like, when you raise them in a supporting and loving environment, they can then do things like in a like at a better pace, because they feel like they have the support of their family.
They're safe.
But like, literally, when you're like, no, you're fighting, you're harping on, you're doing this, you're doing that, obviously that kid is going to run fast forward and run forward towards what they believe is going to make them
exactly
happy.
Whether they do it in front
age.
of your face or behind your back. Because even when I watched Drag Race, a lot of them talk about, I knew I was gay. I was like 6, I knew I was gay, like I knew it, but my parents never let me sort of explore. I got in trouble for wearing my mum's heels or my mum's dress, and so I hid it. I would do makeup. Even in Sex Education, Shooty's character, he would do makeup and like, you know who you are, do you know what I mean? And it's like, it just means you're gonna just hide it more. Do you know what I mean? If you're not allowed to explore that. So yeah.
So he goes to this professor, and I'm not gonna like, they do this
before
really.
The professor, there's another bit where he is like on the street again, like asking
Yeah.
people and talking and stuff. And then these women, and I remember them because they're wearing pink masks and they're just like trolling him, yeah. And he was like, oh, like how can someone just say, like if I say to you like, oh, I'm a woman, am I a woman? And they were like, yeah, of course you are. And he was like, okay, so if I say that my pronouns are beautiful or whatever, am I that? And he was like, and they were like, yeah. They're like, so he's like, so if I say that I'm a cat or whatever, like am I that? And they were like, yeah, absolutely. Are you a cat? Then yeah, you're a cat. Who am I to tell you?
Is this
And
one that was like, so if I don't exist, if I
irritating.
say you don't exist, because that's my
Yeah, he was like, yeah,
reality.
he was like, if I say you don't exist, I say, well, that's your reality. You don't, then I don't exist. Poof.
And then he's like,
I'm
but
gone.
we're having this conversation now. And she said, are we?
Are we? Yeah. She was like,
Fucking idiot, mate.
I was like, that's the energy that you need. Like, that's the energy that you need to give this guy.
So he goes to this professor, and this is really annoying because he asks the difference between gender and sex, which I think is a really important question. And it's a shame that they did this because as he starts to explain, they do that thing where they make it seem like he's talking for ages and they chop it and he's losing interest, which is just like, you didn't come to learn anything.
Yeah.
And you know what? This is my problem with a lot of people who are right wing. Like, I feel like even those that are all the way left, right, you can have conversations with them. Like, you can literally sit there and be like, okay, I hear what you're saying, but have you thought about this? And even if you both walk away still holding the same views, you've listened to people who are right wing, they're not trying to fucking hear it. Like, for him in this whole documentary, he wasn't trying to learn, he wasn't trying to educate himself, he wasn't trying to open his mind. He'd reached his conclusion,
And he said,
this was
you
just
prove me wrong, but you won't, because I know I'm right.
Exactly. And this is the biggest problem I have with him. You went to a professor, you could have listened, you could have talked, because asking the question between sex and gender is really, really important. Like, but he didn't even want it. He wasn't trying to hear it. So basically, this guy goes on.
And then I think because of that, because of his approach, the professor gets really defensive. And it's like you said, there is no space for dialogue or discourse or a conversation or any kind of back and forth because he feels like his back is up against the wall.
Yeah, so he has to defend his stance, right? Which is why I said to you, the other woman was the perfect way to respond to him. So, they're having this conversation and he basically... he's saying this in a really condescending way, but he's like, I want to get to the truth. Like, I want to get to the truth of people's gender identities. And there's nothing wrong with saying I want to get to the truth. Like, I want to understand the truth, right? That's not a problem. But when you're saying it in response to people's gender identity, you're basically trying to say you want to get to... Yeah, like, I don't know how to explain it.
Like,
but
you're mad and I'm just here for you to realise that you're mad.
Exactly. And it's transphobic. The whole vibe of his, like, questioning is transphobic. So... he keeps probing as to what is a woman, and understandably the professor is reluctant to answer this because of the way he's conducted himself.
It's like, you want me to say something. It's like you have a rebuttal for every single thing that I might say.
Yeah, so if I say to you this and this, you're gonna like have a rebuttal and get me to maybe slip up or something. So he goes from there and he basically leaves saying that, oh, like, you know, he went to university to ask and thank God he didn't pay for a degree. Like, fucking idiot. And it shows that you didn't go to the...
And this is what I agree with when you said it's really poorly like produced and made and stuff, because like, you could tell that he wrote the script to this and it was just so fucking basic. Even like trying to be like, oh, and so I went here and then you see the map of the plane going across the thing. I said, bro, it's
giving Carmen Sandiego.
Let's do better.
Like, it's giving Carmen
What's that?
Sandiego. You never played Carmen Sandiego?
No.
It's some game, yeah. It was a computer game and she's a detective, but like every time she'd fly to a different country, that's what the plane would do. On the map. I can't believe you never played Carmen Sandiego.
No,
that was like a fucking staple. So he goes to speak to the psychiatrist Miriam Grossman, and she does a lot of work on childhood psychology, and I hope she's lost her license after this, because imagine like you find her to help your kid. This woman is... So she says that there's gender dysphoria, which I agree with, and that's someone who has an intense loathing for their biological body. And that's different from people now who are just gender fluid and questioning their gender. And I'm like, okay. And also, like, if you even look back in history, a lot of prehistoric settlements and things like that, like, gender was so fluid.
Yeah.
It's in today's world, we're so rigid with the definition of like a gender and like what things should...
Dresses are for girls and trousers are for boys, and it's only even really in relatively recent history that women are allowed to wear like skirts. Even in like white garment churches, like women can't wear trousers. Women are allowed to wear trousers. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's relatively recently that like women can be doing up trousers and shirts, and it was all very...
Yeah. So she actually gives a good definition of sex and gender, and I think this is, you know, like how I see things.
So first, let's define the terms sex and gender.
Yes, please.
Sex is biology. Sex is unchanging. It's based on chromosomes. 99.999% of the cells in the body are marked either male or female. Gender, on the other hand, is a perception. It's a feeling. It's a way of identifying. It's an experience.
And it's social, mostly.
Exactly. It's an experience that's subjective. And that is so true. Like, even if you transition, right, obviously, like, your chromosomes and all of that kind of stuff, whatever, fine.
Yeah,
cool.
if you did a blood test, it would still come, or a P test or whatever, it would still come up as XX or XY.
Yeah, but gender, like, that is a social construct. Like, it's society that tells me, oh, because I'm a woman, I need to marry at a certain age, or I need to do this, or I need to have this kind of hair, I need to do that. And it is so different. Like, if you go to, like, I don't know, like Kenya, for example, or like, let me not say Kenya, but if you go to like
they did go to Kenya.
If you go to like, I don't know, the depths of the Amazonian forest, the definition of what a woman is different from like,
or the roles that a woman has is going to be different.
Exactly, like that gender definition is, or the perception is so different from like me. Even if you go to different parts of the country, like that you're living in America, like in the South, deep South, that gendered identity of being a woman is so different from like if you saw a woman in New York, you know. So it is very society, and it's your own way of identifying, and it is subjective. What I see myself as because I'm a woman is different from like even my sister who grew up and was raised in the same environment as me. So she says that a man who says he's a woman is not a woman, and her views are rooted in science, and there's only one reality. But again, it's fucking bullshit, right? Because one, if that's how somebody chooses to identify, it's no skin off your teeth. And two, the definition of a woman, as you have just said within yourself, is subjective. So why can that man not identify as a woman? Like, sex and gender.
And I think your gender is a lot about like how you present to the world. So it's like, okay, what are you telling me? Like, I'm wearing, do you know what I mean? I'm dressed like a woman, like the woman that I feel I am. So like if I, and sometimes like if I didn't tell you that I was trans, like, well,
you wouldn't know. So if you saw me and you thought, oh, that's a beautiful woman,
so you suddenly
now because I tell you, you're trans, I'm trans.
Or are you gonna now take a blood and urine sample and then say, oh, actually it's XY? No, sorry, you're
fam.
So it's like all of this is just because people are telling you, people are openly trans, people are saying this, that they're happy about it, that they're quote unquote poisoning the minds of the youth. That's why you're because would you know
these lot act like, oh, like sexuality and like being on the queer or LGBT like spectrum is catching,
fam.
Like, it's
who was the other day that drag queens are dangerous? It's like, did you that have been so exposed to gay people or trans people, did you suddenly wake up and decide now you're gay, you're trans?
Fuck off.
Is that what happens?
And it's not like, oh, because you're given the room to experiment, suddenly like your whole life is gonna be something else. Like, so we meet Selena Soul, and this babe, she's competed her whole life against transgender women. This is what she says. But girl. But I really wonder how many trans teenage athletes are there?
What is in your water? I don't understand. Is all of them just there?
They all just flocked to your high school.
To you specifically, to beat you.
And she said they beat her in every race, and she keeps saying, so she keeps othering these trans women, and she keeps saying, we women athletes, like in response to herself and not the others. And it's very condescending. It
is. And also it's like, just train harder, because this is what they do a lot with the sports aspects of things. It's like he's just trying to find, like, put another wheel in the cog of whatever, or cog in the wheel, whatever the fuck. Because it's like, not once does he look at like trans men and be like, oh, actually they're at a disadvantage against cis men.
This is all
not
about
once does he
women.
make that comparison.
And then like his whole thing is like, I'm for women. You're not fucking for women.
You're
and
not.
Again,
you're anti-trans women.
You're for women, right? Where is the representation in this documentation?
Exactly.
Documentary. You're talking to white people in every aspect. So you're not you're for like your agenda. You're not for women. You're not
for your agenda, and you're using this cause or this to push your agenda forward. Like, this is what I said, it's so disingenuous. Like, you don't actually give a fuck. Like, you just don't, like, you're transphobic and you just want to sort of say, oh yeah, great, everyone should feel the way that I feel.
This guy says he's for women, right? But I know he voted, or he would have stood for Roe versus Roe being
Roe v. Wade. You literally went to a women's march and started your nonsense. Women's march.
We'll get there.
Let's get there.
So now we're like, you can obviously see this documentary shifting to talking about athletes, so trans women competing. And so he's talking to different people about the trans competing or competitive advantage. And there's this montage of trans women competing and winning, and they keep showing Semenya.
I had this in my notes. I was like, are you crazy?
Like, this is why I said to you, this guy, yeah, he's not for women. He's fucking racist. First of all, he's racist. That one, like, I know for a fact, right? He's racist. And second of all, you're not for women. Semenya is not transgender.
Thank you very much. She's intersex.
She's intersex, and this is the same kind of energy as what they did to like Serena, right? Like, because black women, if they present a certain way, they must be fuck right off. I'm so happy they put that. I put that in my because I was really zoning out in this documentary. I was like, this is fucking pissing me off, yeah. And then I saw Caster Semenya. I said, excuse the fuck out of me, because it's the same way that people, was it not, what's that white woman's name, the British one, what's her name, the marathon one, that was saying, oh yeah, Caster Semenya. Yeah, I remember. And you know, it was because people were talking like this, they had to do the test on her. It wasn't that there was anything, it's just people were complaining.
And do you know how, like, this is such an intimate detail of my life? Because I'm a good sports person, does that mean now that, like, my whole life is open to scrutiny because you lost? If you had won and you assumed I was trans or I'm intersex or whatever, you wouldn't have cared.
You wouldn't have cared.
But you lost.
So,
you need to get up at 5 a.m. and train.
As in, so Leah Thomas competes as a swimmer for the University of Pennsylvania.
And she's a trans woman.
Yeah, she's a trans woman. Yeah. And we meet her teammate who says that they had concerns when Leah started competing because she had to share a locker room with them, and they also feel like it's not fair that she gets to compete, but it's kind of like you can't talk because she wins a lot of the races for Pennsylvania, and basically they want to keep her on the team,
right?
And the university brought a trans specialist in to talk to all of the students, but like the vibe was kind of like to help them be comfortable with this. And it's kind of like when people talk about this whole thing about trans people in a locker room, right?
Or a bathroom or whatever.
Yeah. First of all, there are two things to it for me. When you go into a bathroom, okay, like there's stalls. So
yeah, if
you want to use the stall, use the fucking stall, right? You lock the stall, you're calm. Like,
for somebody to talk about trans women because in a women's bathroom there's no urinals. Like,
there's no urinals,
just stalls.
There's no urinals, right? So if somebody's like breaking into your door, right, to use the bathroom, that person, it's not their transness that's making them unhinged. That's their madness, right? And then it's the same kind of thing like guys do when they find out someone is gay and they start acting like, they're gonna like me. Yeah. Like, somebody being trans does not equal being a sexual predator.
And also, someone being trans means that they are a woman, right? So a trans woman is a woman, right? So if that trans woman is a straight woman, then you're not her type, bro, or cis. So it's about that, yeah. And also,
if she's a lesbian,
that trans woman is a lesbian, then it's not just about the transness, is it? Because your other teammates could be lesbians. If you're so concerned about people looking at you and being attracted to you, then should we then talk about get sensitivity training for the homophobia? Because literally. It's like, do you know what I mean? It's like in any case, it's like come on, let's really get down to the root of what the problem is.
It's just fucking ridiculous.
Because
right?
if that was a gay man, then that wasn't trans. If that was a cis gay man coming to the locker room, would you be okay with that then? Because then they're not attracted to you.
So we learn about the We Spa controversy, where a registered sex offender was going into female locker rooms under the guise of being trans, right? And again, this is what I mean about it's not, because he used this as a way to be like, oh, look at what the trans agenda is doing. Like, people are getting sexually assaulted, right? But it's like, this is such a small minority. And then this is somebody who has used the trans agenda as an avenue to like sexually assault people. But if that trans agenda didn't exist, he would have found another means. It's like people saying, oh, ban all ice cream vans because some like pedophiles use that to lure kids. But if that van didn't exist, they're still going to find a way to do what they want to do.
It just won't be an ice cream van. It's like what you were saying about what they do with gay people, make them like they're predators and they're dangerous. It's like a narrative that they sell. It's like putting the two hand in hand, like, oh, you're gay or you're a sexual deviant. No. Like, the thing is, you can be gay and a sexual deviant, of course. You can
be straight and a sexual deviant.
But you're not a sexual deviant because you're gay.
Because you're gay.
You just happen to be gay and
you just happen to be those two things, like the Venn diagrams.
Yeah, the Venn diagram. You just happen to be the two. Exactly.
Oh God, people need to educate
trans
themselves.
people can be bad people, but they're not bad people because they're trans. They're just bad people.
But you know what? It's just like being, and I'm not LGBT. I don't know what qualifies as an ally, but I very much believe in and like support their rights and like fight for them like within my capacity. But I cannot imagine how difficult it must be, being this group of, I'm black, but
and women, whoops.
I'm a woman, whoops. What am I talking about? No, but like, can you imagine like being this group of people, right? And it's like, by virtue of just you being who you are, right, there are all these like, how can you say to me because of my sexuality then I'm akin to a sexual deviant? Do you know what I mean?
It doesn't make any kind of sense.
Oh, fuck off, man.
It's actually wild.
It's infuriating.
And it's crazy because like, we're black, 100%. But like, you can't hide the blackness. Like, if someone's gonna hate you because you're black, like, you're black, but like, you could be living in turmoil within yourself, hiding the fact that you're trans, hiding the fact that you're gay, and then the moment you come out, people who have been there for you, loved you, supported you, just disappear.
Like, you never.
Do you know how fucked that is?
And again, do you know what this guy keeps going on about men, women, but it's like, have we ever talked about how it could be for a trans man to go into a male?
Exactly. I'm
toilet?
so happy you said that.
Because I remember,
happy
and I'm not
the same thing.
I'm not a trans man, and I, again, like I said, I can't like pretend to understand the rights. But I remember one time I went to this event, right, and I wanted to go to the toilet, and I was super pressed. But the girls' toilet was
press. I don't need no press.
But the girls' toilet, as per usual, was just like a mess.
Line.
And then like the guys' toilet was empty, and I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna go to the guys' toilet, right? So I went into the toilet, and there was like two guys at the urinal, right? And then one, like, both of them were like what the fuck? But then one was just like, oh, like, it's calm, like, just because I went to the cubicle, right? There were like two cubicles.
Yeah, of course. I would hope so.
So both of them were shocked when I walked in. So they were like, what the fuck? Then one was like, oh yeah, like, just use a cubicle. Like, girls' toilet is always a madness. Yeah. One was so angry, like, so the other one left.
It was just you and the mad one.
He was shouting that, nah, this isn't on. What the fuck? If I was a guy and I went into the urinal, blah blah, how would you look?
Cheers.
So like, I was like petrified to even come out of the toilet. Yeah. So when I came out, luckily somebody else walked into the toilet, and I heard someone else come in. Yeah, and because he turned around and said, "Nah, like, there's some baby in there, like, da 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 da," and the other one was just laughing, and then I ran out. But so then so again, like I said, I'm not trans, right?
Yeah.
But then I say to myself, so you keep going on about these trans women that are entering toilets, and apparently like they're just having like being sexual deviants, right? If you were a trans man, and for whatever reason, maybe your identity, you had been outed at an event and you'd gone to the toilet, maybe not known, what could have happened to you when you went to the toilet? Why don't we discuss that side of things? Since you think anybody who has male chromosomes is like this, because again, that's fundamentally what you're saying, that anybody who has these male chromosomes is essentially this like raging like deviant, right? What happens to the trans men who have female chromosomes that are going into toilets with people who have male?
All the men who have the male chromosomes that are really the issue here. Like,
get them off this. Like,
honestly,
planet.
that's what I'm saying. This documentary was not. It was skewed. Yeah. It was definitely skewed, because if you're talking about trans people as a whole, right, and their experience, and the dangers or whatever, surely you should also look at it from a trans man point of view.
You don't even ask for like trans people of color, so that you can understand the scope, because this experience is not, it's not linear. Yeah,
And
it's
also,
not the same.
I've seen people, like trans people, sometimes tweet about like, or even like on Drag Race when there's trans queens, talk about like passing. And so like so especially trans women who pass, yeah, it's like, oh, life is easier for them because, you know, no one would know unless, you know, you told them. Whereas people who don't, or trans women who don't necessarily pass, it's like, oh, okay, like maybe things are a little bit harder for them.
Of course, I've heard of that. Yeah,
you have women who look quite masculine as well, and it's like, okay, so
yeah, so like what now?
so what are you telling me, like? So what is the whole point of this documentary?
Funny enough, talking about people who you wouldn't know, we meet Mark Takano, right? And he's a congressman, a man, but he's trans, and I wouldn't have fucking known.
Wait, the governor?
Yes, do you know who else?
That explains actually why he was so, because passionate. I mean, and so like because so many times he was like, yeah, this interview's over, and it's like, I just thought it was because of the nature of his questioning, because that is enough to be like, yeah, this interview's over.
Yeah,
but to find out that he's trans, it's like, okay, you're actually really attacking me as a person. And it makes so much sense why he would go to him, why he would pick him to interview as well.
But do you know who else I wouldn't have known? What's that beauty influencer?
Nikki Tutorials.
Yeah,
but someone blackmailed her to.
Yeah, I know. But before that, did you have a clue?
No. I
had absolutely no clue. I swear, this babe is relatable.
You're going to tell me that Nikki Tutorials is not a woman? I'm sorry, she is. What are you saying?
I think she was just like, yeah, like thick queen like me. I used to look at like her Insta, and obviously that has not changed, but I'm just saying that I would. So now that you know what's going on, like now suddenly overnight, once you found out she's a deviant,
and I'm so happy that the response was like ultimately a good one when she came out, because it's just like, how dare you try and weaponize my transness against me? Do you know what I mean? Like, that must have been so scary to do, having a platform that big and people being, even on small TikTok, when people start chatting shit. Like I was saying to Forrest, like, it takes everything in me not to be a petty babe,
bro.
So I can't imagine having a platform that big and coming out with something so big.
She should have outed who blackmailed her. That person would have been done out. So he sits down with this congressman and he's talking about the Equality Act. And the Equality Act is basically saying that, listen, the Equality Act is to just fill in some of the gaps that the Civil Rights Act missed, especially around like the LGBT people and like trans people and things like that, and again them in public settings, like just their right to dignity and stuff like that. Because it's like, even when you think about prison systems, they still put trans women in male prisons.
That's terrifying.
And these women are brutalized. So again, you're talking about these people's dignities, like allow them to have the dignity kind of thing. So basically the interview ends because Matt is being Matt and he's being condescending and provoking, and they're like, no.
That's
and it's like, this interview's over. And like, it's funny because he's like, all I want to know is what is a woman. And like, you can hear, I don't know if it's like Mark's handler or the producer,
not the producer, like an assistant or someone,
saying, I guess you're never gonna know. And
she's like, you're not gonna find out.
The documentary should have ended there, because that's that on that period. So he stops like this gay man, and I love this fucking response, right? He's on the streets again, like prowling, like a fucking predator that he is. And because this guy is a predator. It may not be a sexual one, but he's a predator of your peace. He's a predator of your peace, right? Because predators come in all different ways. He's a peace predator.
100%.
So he stops this gay man, and he's asking, what is a woman? And this man is like, why are you asking a gay man what it means to be a woman? Women know what it means to be a woman. You can't have men defining what a woman is.
Exactly. And the thing is that like, that gay man is saying it as like, what is a woman to you? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what does woman mean? Do you know what I mean? But Matt is trying to say like, what is the definition of a woman? But he never uses those words, and that's basically what he's asking.
Because basically what he wants is for you to say, what is a woman? And then you start stumbling, and then he can then link it back to what he sees as
what woman isn't, which is trans, in his opinion.
Yeah, exactly. So this man, this is the most like repugnant part of this documentary. Women are marching in the streets for their right to choose with their bodies, because like, really and truly, like, I don't think some of us, especially those of us that live in England, we're aware of like what it means to have the right to like an abortion taken away from you. Like, because we live in this like country and you can get an abortion, right? But like, this shit is fucking wild. Like, for me, it's not like, like we said on the Jane's documentary, nobody's advocating for abortion. Like, nobody's been like, oh yeah, like let's meet this abortion quota each week, right? But it's like, I cannot imagine being in a country where you do not have the right to make a decision on your own body. Like, if I decide tomorrow, oh, I want to take the pill, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to get my nipple. Like, you cannot make a decision. Forced pregnancy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Oh, speaking of, Handmaid's Tale is back. That's me done for the weekend. Somebody told me, literally messaged me, was like, yeah, Handmaid's Tale is back. I was listening to your episode on Jane's and it's back. And I was like, fucking hell, that's me done for the weekend. So these women are marching, right, for their right to make decisions on their own body. And he's antagonizing.
That's the word.
Literally, there's a woman there that obviously she's like security or whatever, and she's like, don't interact with this guy, he's going to harass you. He is antagonizing and harassing these women, asking them what it means, like, what is a woman.
And then he's like, you're at a women's march, surely someone knows what it means to be a woman.
Fuck off,
my nigga.
And this is why I say he doesn't care about women. If you cared about women, you would be at that march. Even men who are at the march, I liked him, yo, fuck off. Like, there are men that are there and like, Tim, yeah, fuck off. Like, what are you, like, you do not care about women, because if you cared about women, you'd be at that march, not holding a fucking stupid sign looking like a donut. So then he's like, okay.
I was watching Boston Legal, which I have been binging. It's an amazing show. Okay, I know I'm late, I know it's old, but so one of the lawyers there, he's a Republican, very right wing, and then like his friend was like to him, like, it's crazy to me how you can be pro-life but then also be for the death penalty. It's like, so do you care about life or do you not? Like, is it just when it comes to a woman being able to make a choice that you think, oh yeah, no, actually I'm pro-life? Because you're not really pro-life, because you're for the death penalty.
You're just pro-life before it comes to the earth, like, which is fucking backwards.
Like, once you're born, oh, absolutely not, fuck you.
Yeah, fuck you. You do. And somebody said this as well, it's like, you lots are pro-life, right? But then once that baby's born, there's nothing to support the child. There are no benefits.
Even for the baby to come into the earth, I'm in debt.
Healthcare is not
in that
free.
America, not here. Hold tight.
Healthcare is not free, and you say you're pro-life. You're just pro-control. You're not pro-life, because if you're pro-life, you would create an environment where
so life as I live, life is better. As I this life that you're so pro.
So basically, he's like, it seems like nobody in the Western world has a clue. And then I'm just gonna really skim past this bit because I don't care for it. He goes to Kenya, long story short, and he starts asking them what
I'm not even like in the sea. He literally just like, he's like with the Maasai tribe, because that's what they wear, isn't it? Like, he literally just like, he's with the Maasai
he's
tribe.
With the Maasai,
he is in it, like he's on the border.
He's not even like he in like Nairobi, like nothing. He literally is in the depths of the village, right?
Yeah.
And then he's asking what it means to be a woman, and obviously these people are talking about the stuff you expect them to be saying, like, oh, a man goes, he hunts, he gathers, a woman stays at home, she like cooks,
woman has breasts, woman has vagina, women deliver, which of course is a very generic view of, because some women can't have kids, and so what does that mean? I'm no longer a woman, right? You know what I mean? Some women don't have kids, so what does that mean? I'm no longer a woman. Some people don't, I don't have breasts, so what does that mean? I'm no longer a woman.
Literally. And then they basically say that you're not well if you want to transition. Like, that's the long story short. So he's back in America,
and he's based it on purpose because he knows what he's trying to get. Come on.
Yeah, and he's back with Miriam, and he's having this hissy fit because there's this book called It's Perfectly Normal, right? But she's having this hissy fit, sorry, and like she's getting really agitated, right? And there's this bit where it's depicting gay sex, and she says that, like, okay, so before we get into like this next bit, right? When my mum was pregnant for my sister, I was 7. And I didn't understand. I don't think any kid at 7 understands the concept of like pregnancy and all of this. And she gave me this book, and the book was for kids. And basically it had like, it explained in very simplistic terms how people become pregnant, because my mum didn't sugarcoat this bullshit, right? Of like, oh, a stalk comes. Obviously, she said to me like, oh, God gives babies, but she didn't leave it at that. She explained the science. So the religious woman in her explained that yes, it's a gift from God. Like, conception is a gift from God, right? But she gave me the book, right? And the book had like, it showed like the egg and then the sperm, and it said like, okay, the egg comes from mummy, the sperm comes from daddy. And I'll never forget this book, right? Because I was so intrigued, because I'd never seen anything like this. It was all
talking about, like, oh my God, is this how it works? Is that
it was all cartoons? I wish I could find it. I wish I could find this book, right? Because it was amazing. And the two books like my mum bought me when I was a kid that I'll never forget. That book and then Princess Rosebud's Wedding. Because she bought it for me when we were at the airport in Scotland, and it came with this like ring, and I just love that book. But anyways, so Princess Rosebud reminds me of me, except she married the broke guy, which I never would do. But basically, yeah, in this book with the mum and the dad, there's this bit where the mum had ginger hair and dad had brown hair, yeah. And like they're in the bed, and like so part of it, so they're covered in the bed, then there's that thing where it's like a circle and it's an extract, like it,
like a magnifier.
Extraction, yeah, magnifier, right? And it shows what's going on inside their bodies, and it shows that like
the sperm and the egg.
Not the sperm and egg, it actually shows the penis, like the scientific
like,
part of the penis
diagrams,
right inside the vagina, and it explains that when they do this, like then a baby is born, and this is called sexual intercourse. Because before that I didn't like know what it was. So this book was so important to me because it helped me understand like life and how life is created, and like the sanctity of life, and like it also, I don't know, it explained to me like my parents' roles in like creation and stuff like that. And it's like the reality of the world today is people's relationships are not all hetero. Your kid will go to school and people will have 2 mummies, 2 daddies, or like 3 parents because they're a throuple. Life looks all different, right? And like if your parents are both like men, right, and you're a kid and you walk in on them having sex, like you might be the parent that you want your kid to understand this is natural, this is like love, this is what it looks like for us. But at the same time, as a parent, do you not veto the books your kids read? Exactly. Because she was so angry about the existence of this book. Just like there's some parents that don't like the fact that kids even like, so there's some parents who would have heard that book my mum gave me and they would have been so angry, like, why would you be showing your child a book that talks about sex, blah blah blah. But you can literally scroll through this book, see what it's about, and be like, nope, this isn't for me. And you can go and pick up the Mormon Book of Life,
or you
and
can
that
go
will
through
tell
it
you
with your child. And I feel like there's a bit that they mentioned before. It kind of talks about like non-sexual nudity, and I feel like sometimes sex is like such a dirty word. Literally, the purpose of sex, besides pleasure and great times, is to bring forth life. And I feel like when you make it such a like hush hush taboo kind of thing, it just makes it seem like, oh my god, like what is this thing I'm not supposed to know? Like,
and now I need to know it.
Brother told me,
and then your kid is watching porn with a 14-year-old who himself is not fully developed,
and it's not because they are so like, oh, these fucking horny kids. It's just literally
it's because they want to know what it is.
They're just like, what is this?
Like, if you don't want to show them books with sexual like images, don't.
If it's too graphic, I get it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not everyday like dicks and vaginas.
Of course, and I understand that because I don't know if I would want my kid to be looking, because like again, like the way the book was done for me was sexually explicit. That book, the guy had his legs pon the shoulder, right? It was a bit mad.
I'm not gonna lie.
It was a bit mad.
It was a bit mad. The book in the documentary, I said, this is a lot.
They could have just done the dads in bed, spooning. That would have been very okay.
It was too much.
It was a bit much for a kid.
Because I was like, nah. Why is there?
No, it was leg on shoulder
positions for you.
It's fine if you don't want to show your kid that book. Pick another book. Like you don't. Nobody has a gun. These people act like there's a gun to your head saying you have to read this book. So
that's not the parent, because you're guiding them, so you can pick and choose.
So she says that the problem with this is this guy called Kinsey, right? And he wanted to and this is where I was like, oh, it all fucking makes sense. Because she says Kinsey wanted to rid the world of Christian values. And I was like, oh, you should have fucking led with this.
Why do they conflate republicanism and Christianity? Like, why are those two so like together?
Because don't forget, Christianity is what the slave masters used to control the slaves, and then a lot of the people who are Republicans, I'm not saying they're slave masters, but they stem from that ideology. So it's all hand in hand. An extreme religion, they base all of their they base their values on extreme religion, right? So for literally, so anything for them, and then obviously Christianity is seen for them as like the pure faith, right? So anything for them that's outside of that is a problem. And it's like, this woman says she's a child psychologist, and it's almost like, I don't want my therapists or psychologists or like medical professionals to be extremely religious. It sounds bad, right?
No, but you should be able to leave that. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have your faith. Like, have your faith, yeah.
But leave that, be able to
influence, yeah. Yeah.
And when you're extreme, and that's why I said extremely. I'm not saying when you're extreme, you can't
see past it.
You can't see past it. That's why this baby is a child like psychologist, and she's talking about Christian values when it comes to sexuality, because you conflate you're conflating the two, how
can I do my job impartially if I believe that things are
inherently you're wrong for being gay?
Mm-hmm.
So you as an innocent parent bring your 14-year-old kid to this like psychologist, right, because they're having certain issues, and this person is telling the kid that they're wrong for being gay. Do you understand what I mean? It's all fucked.
That's not the point. That's not what we're here to talk about. Like, I'm fine with my kid being gay. This is not what we're here to let's address the issue at hand. I'm not here for you to deliver me or do fucking pray away part 2. Like, I'm not here for that.
Listen, I hope at least if this woman has not lost the license, I hope she's lost all her clients. But anyways, so basically she says, and this whole bit is repulsive. So basically she says that he believed that children are sexual from birth and should be seen as sexual creatures.
Is this true?
That is true, right?
That's fucking disgusting.
But then she goes on saying that like he did a lot of his research was done speaking to pedophiles, and then he committed unspeakable acts on kids. That there's this page in his book where he's recording like the male orgasm, and it's like done on kids as young as like 3 months.
Children, yeah, that's fucked.
Right. And it's horrible because like how many trans people or allies or advocates do you believe or do you know that base their ideals on this guy's research? Like, I had never heard of him before this documentary. Same. So maybe I'm not really like in the therapist world or academia, so I may not have known of him. But I've never heard a person come out and be like, oh yeah, like a lot of the reason I believe in like trans rights or this is because of Kinsey, right? So it's like you have now it's that linking of, oh, like if people are like trans allies or trans or whatever, they are therefore deviants, right? Like, and you know what's fucked about this? All people that live like this are the ones that when you go to their house, they'll be having sex parties where everybody throws their keys in. And more power to you. Do what you want. I'm not judging anybody
but
that
then
does that.
Don't come and do hypocritical. It's like with that other documentary we did, Outrage, where it was loads of like Republican, or I think it was, and Democrat, basically politicians who were gay, but it like putting through all these laws to harm gay people. Do you get what I mean? It was very like that.
Like, how can you conflate the two? So now, like, I don't even know what her angle was here, because she's basically saying that, oh, Kinsey would be so happy with the way the world is, that basically him talking, like, abusing children is what led to, like, people coming out and saying that, are you fucking stupid? And, like, trends, like, the trans identity has existed for millennia, right? It's not a new thing. It's just that now, because of social media and because of the work like other people have done, pioneers have done before, we now have people, like, we now have safe spaces for people to come out and be like, this is my truth. But whether or not these people existed, they existed before Kinsey, and they would have existed if this man hadn't like been a fucking, do you know what I mean? So then she talks about John Money as well, who coined the term gender identity. I'd actually heard about this study, and like Law and Order SVU did an episode. I was just going to say, do you remember that episode? Yeah, I remember the episode because the babe was wearing a really bad wig, bad wig.
I remember. Yeah, I remember when I said, I was, oh my god, that's where it came from. Yeah, because I know that most of those episodes are like true or based on reality.
I don't know if they've done an episode on Armie Hammer, but that would be good to know. He believed that kids are born gender neutral, which I agree with, and then society tells them what gender they are. So a boy can be raised as a girl and be fine. And like a lot of people come out and say that, oh yeah, like, okay, I'll talk about this later, but yeah. So he performed this study on a set of twin boys because one had his penis burnt off, circumcision gone wrong, and child, I don't know what I would do, but anyways, and then the other was uncircumcised, obviously, because after they burnt one, they were like,
absolutely not.
Yeah. So Money convinced the twins' parents to raise one as a girl, and so Bruce was the one who'd lost his penis, but to raise the other one as a boy. So Bruce as a girl and the other one as a boy. And then like, okay, this study was actually kind of like, okay, fair enough. It's, you know, whatever. But then like he performed horrible acts on the kids, made them like simulate sex with each other, and it ended up
why did it have to get here?
Literally, it ended up in tragedy because like both boys essentially like unalived themselves. And it's kind of like, again, she uses this as like like a thing to be like, you know, you see like what these like people are doing in the world and blah blah blah. And like there's this clip of Bruce, because Bruce eventually, who was raised a girl, was like, nah, he went back to identifying as a man. One of the things he said was that he found it really difficult being a girl, like he always felt off. He liked trucks, and I don't know why people equate these two things, right? Like, oh, I struggled because like growing up I like trucks, I like you can like trucks.
I understand exactly what you're trying to say. This is what I've tried to say this so many times. Like, you can like trucks and be a girl, like that's fine. Do you know what I mean? I mean, obviously he wasn't a girl because he was a boy, but like you could just be a boy. You could just say, look, I just feel like I'm a boy. But then at the same time, I get it as well, because it's like these are the things that society has told me boys like to do. And
but
I like
that's
to do
what
them,
I'm
so
linking
I'm a
it
boy.
back to. It's societal. If we stripped all of these,
if
all of this
everything
bullshit,
was like baking, sewing, all of that was gender neutral.
Because again, like you said, by definition, like women shouldn't like to wear trousers. But I love a good, you know,
I love it. Oh, I love a trouser.
I love a trouser. So again,
trouser so
do you know what I mean?
much.
Does that make me? I'm a bit like.
Do you know what?
I'm gonna
when
get my
I
strap.
was a kid, I was a proper tomboy. Like my mum
you
was
were.
very concerned. Like my mum
can
was
tell
kind of
from
like,
pictures.
oh mate, yeah, fam, that picture. My mum was literally like, rah, mads, yeah. But it's like, I just liked boy stuff and I like boys' clothes. I literally would go into the shops and I would go to the boys section. My mum would say, oh God, like. And it's like, okay, cool, fine. Like now I like girls' clothes and I still wear men's clothes. You know what I mean? Like.
And
So,
like growing up, I
like,
was like the girl. Like I was and still am like the girliest girl. I love the makeup. I love the dresses. I love the this. I love that. But that doesn't mean anything. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't then equate to like, and that's not my definition of being a woman.
And it doesn't make you any less or any more of a woman than a girl. Then exactly.
So Miriam says that she's put on her tinfoil hat at this point, and she says there are forces that don't want people to know about these two scientists, but yet here we are knowing about them. So I don't know.
Yeah, like Google is free, and you literally just
Google's
said it
free.
on
They're
this
very that
documentary.
money like study. I had been known about it. So
Mate.
her tinfoil hat was foiling, child.
This is bugging.
So I want this to end. So we meet Scott, who's clearly unhappy with his transition, and he's angry. And I don't want to say like the reason people transition is dumb, yeah. But like Scott is just basically like, yeah, like when Scott was identifying as a woman, he like kept being told that he was quite masculine in his approach, and that he was quite a boss woman and this and that. So he was like, oh, like maybe then therefore I'm a man, and then transitioned. And he's a thick man as well. Like he's got the hips. I don't know if you clocked. Yeah.
Like Marcus from Girlfriends.
Yeah. And then he's just angry with the world. He says like he's here
because he's got bare health conditions now.
Yeah. And he said they don't tell you about this, they don't this, they don't that.
And this is my thing with Scott, yeah. Scott was so close but just didn't get there. Because all Scott had to do was say, listen, I transitioned. And this is when I started thinking about the other documentary that we did, I Want My Sex Back, yeah. That all Scott had to do was say, listen, I transitioned, I didn't know enough, these are the things that you should know. If you choose to transition, these are the things that you should know, these are the risks involved. Think about it. Is it that you want to transition because you feel like a boss woman and you feel like women can't be bosses and you have to be a man? If that's the case, you can be a boss as a woman. That's fine. Like, you don't have to transition. Do you know what I mean? Like, this could have been your chance to say, like, look,
say something of substance.
Yeah, just say, look, this was my experience and I'm just sharing it with you. If you want to transition, that's fine, but at least you're doing so knowing the things that I wish I had known. That's it.
But instead she's gone off on a tangent about cutting off kids' breasts and all sorts. So that was pretty much like the summation. Like Scott was very angry and you could tell
Scott
that he wanted
angry.
like he needs therapy, I think. Maybe he should go to Miriam.
No, that's not gonna help anybody.
So Matt keeps calling hormone blockers chemical castration, and on-screen text tells us about this father in Canada, who was informed.
We've been to Canada better times in the past few documentaries.
I know. Who was informed that hospitals would begin hormone altering medication on his child, and in line with Canadian law, hospitals could do this without parental consent. Allegedly, the father spoke up, and he was fined and arrested. And he was arrested because he misgendered the child. And I do think that's mad, because up until an age, your parents are in charge, should be in charge of your medical. Yeah. So we're still in Canada because Matt goes to meet with this guy called Jordan Peterson.
Why
and I
actually have this like visceral reaction to him?
No, because you know what, I before this documentary, I had never so my fiance like sends me clips of this guy, right? But it wasn't like this. So it would be him like doing motivational speaking, and he's a bit too like pull your bootstraps up for me. But like sometimes I like the essence of the message he's sending, right?
Even here, I didn't completely disagree with what he was saying,
but he was just too much.
It's a lot.
So
I don't know. It's just,
there's something about him.
It doesn't come from a good place.
Yeah, that's what it is. And I feel like he's the kind of person that snorts coke. Not that all people that snort coke are bad, but he just gives me this high energy, and it's high off of
and
something.
And it's bad.
Yeah. So maybe crack. I don't know.
Allegedly.
Something. But he says therapists should not affirm gender feelings people have. Like, do you know what he was saying? A lot of it wasn't making sense to me. Maybe it was just me.
I think he was,
which is why I was like, is this guy on something?
So I think, and listen, by the time I got to this part of the documentary, I was like, Lord,
tired,
when will it be over? But from what I understood him saying, I thought he was saying like, you can do what you want. Like, there are feminine men and there are masculine women, and that's fine. Like, that doesn't mean that you're trans.
What the fuck was he talking about? Sex is sex, and there is nothing, no other gender. You're talking about temperament.
I don't listen. All I took
That's why I said he's on drugs. What do you mean,
really,
temperament? So if I shout, I'm a man. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking. Yeah. He was manic.
Yeah,
and he was manic. So that's why I'm like, it's given like that person that snorts coke at a Christmas party and comes out and is like talking right in your face really loud and. That's what it's given. He was manic.
Yeah, it was. The bit, all I remember from him was, and he did, to be honest, he did actually speak a lot, but all I took from it was the bit where he was like, there could be feminine men and masculine women, which I agree with. Like, that's fine. Like, you can be a feminine man, you can be a masculine man, a masculine woman, you can be a trans woman, you can be a trans man. Like,
you can be whatever you want.
Just don't, just sometimes you don't have to conflate it, or maybe like, just, you know.
But this is what annoys me about this whole thing, right? It's like my desire to be who I want to be and live my truth, right? It has no bearing on your life. So why is it so difficult for you to just let me be me?
And it's so funny because people had like the same vim and stuff for like COVID and vaccines and masks and stuff, but that actually affects other people. Like, that actually affects, when it comes to COVID, like, you're against vaccines, you're against masks and stuff, that actually impacts everybody. But me being trans does not impact you.
It doesn't change anything. It's not what's causing the pound to crash,
to become like, akin to $1.
Fam,
is that where we're at? Do you remember when it was
but it's actually
$2 to a pound?
When I went to uni in America, it was basically $2 to a pound.
You were
like, I was living as a queen. I was living as a queen.
No,
like, people are like, oh, you got pounds. I was like, yeah, bitch, I got now they're like,
bitch.
Now they're looking at us like, you fucking peasants.
You raggedy
It's
bitch.
actually, no, I'm sorry, but Americans, I love you and all, but it's actually embarrassing.
It's actually embarrassing. And you know, it's not embarrassing because it's America. It's embarrassing because how the mighty have fallen. How we go from it being double.
It's embarrassing because it's America. That country is mismanaged and all sorts of. They had Trump as a president. It's embarrassing because it's America.
Okay, we had Boris Johnson.
But it was different
two sides because
we did. No. Do you know why it was different with Boris? We didn't vote him in. He was thrust upon us.
So. There you go.
Exactly. And he was thrust upon us. Them man went to the polls and voted. President
They chose. It's true. We were for.
We didn't choose. Who would have chosen Boris and his windswept hair? Who?
It's the Conservatives. What's the last president? What's the last prime minister that we actually chose?
It was David Cameron, no?
That's wild. That's like...
because it was Cameron. Then he fucked off to shag pigs. Yeah, and then it was Theresa May. Then May, she fucked off with her stiff dancing.
And then it was Boris.
And then we had Boris. Boris fucked off to shag his new bride. And now we have
He fucked
Truss.
off and we got Liz.
She's on her way to fucking off. They've started doing the vote of no confidence. God knows what.
It's too much. We've been through the trenches. ¿Por qué?
I'm almost
¿Por qué,
close to saying, like,
mamá?
let the monarchy have power again, because we are not, whatever we're not doing it right. So
We should just start again. Send the flood, lords.
Lizzie ducked out at the perfect time.
Who?
Lizzie.
Lizzie,
Because
yeah,
the
fam.
pound
She
wasn't
knew what was
crashing
coming.
like this when she died.
She said, I don't want this from under my
She's like, I
name.
want no parts of this mess.
Yeah,
Because
I hear it for her.
nah,
I hear it.
she
I hear
ducked
it.
out at if I was her, the perfect time to duck out.
Yeah,
like,
it's true.
so we now go from the sublime to the ridiculous with this documentary. Start talking about how, like, believing you're an animal is a queer identity. And it's like, I know that they went through the depths, like that dark side of TikTok to find this person, right?
Yeah.
To interview. Because I've never in my life even encountered somebody who thinks being an animal is now a queer identity. So it's like this fringe part of society. And what's annoying is not that these people exist. Like, fine, again, it has no bearing onto me. Like, do what you want to do. If you go and you say you're a lion and lions eat you, hello.
Or if you eat the lion, then do your thing.
Do your thing. But what annoys me about this is you use this to kind of like, what's the word? Like, ridicule the trans. Like,
you're aligning yourself with the LGBTQIA community.
No, it's not.
And trying to make it seem like it's all in the same. Like, if this thing is so crazy, this is akin to this being crazy. And it's like, no,
and
actually,
then this
it's
guy
not,
was
though.
very strategic in bringing this person in, because it's like, now I can show you how just this is all just a circus, basically. Okay,
Exactly. It's so dangerous.
So one talking head says, and do you know what? I really, really agree with this. A lot of people ask questions, and I've heard people ask these questions about, like, why is it that in the West some of these things are so prominent, right? And so one talking head says,
First of all, I think we need to remember that in the West, at least, we have it drilled into our minds from childhood onwards that personal happiness is the key to individual flourishing. Secondly, we think of ourselves in psychological terms. I am my feelings. And in order for me to be happy, I have to be able to express my feelings. I have to be outwardly that which I feel myself to be inwardly. Thirdly, we're taught that interfering with somebody else's happiness is very bad.
Thirdly, interfering with somebody else's happiness is very bad. And that is very, very true. And that is like, when you look at the West, like, okay, I'm originally Nigerian, right? And when you look at like Nigerian society and Western society, yeah, in Nigeria, Nigerians function like as a like collective, right? So it's kind of like the village raises you, at least like that's how I was like raised, and I think we all were. You have those aunties that chat and interfere in this and that, right? And it's not about like your own happiness, it's about what is good for the wider society
and the wider society, but in a hierarchy. So more so like my elders, like what is best for them, cool. And then it become my turn when I have my child, then her wedding will be about me, because my wedding was about my mum, and so on so forth.
Okay. And no one knows this more than an Igbo eldest daughter, right? Cool. So like when you think about it, like, I'm not saying that I'm not personally happy, but I never just think about my happiness alone. I think about,
in fact,
like,
it's probably the last thing that you think about.
Right, it's my parents. It's what my grandparents, what my uncles and aunts can think. What's this person? Can I do this? If I did this, cool. Even decisions like I've made about like maybe my own body, right? Like I've thought about, how's this going to come across to outside, right? But in like the West, people just think about their own happiness, which isn't a bad thing. Cool. I mean, there's a balance.
There's
somewhere.
pros and cons. Yeah, there's literally balance.
Because it's that personal happiness that made people not wear masks.
Oh,
but
speaking
that's
of
another
balance, when I went to WizKid's show for free, because I'm a chosen one, he premiered a new song and it's called Balance, and it's amazing, guys. So when it comes out, just know
but he has a song called Balance, doesn't he? Doesn't he already have a song called Balance?
I don't believe so.
Okay, maybe
Anyway, this one is called Balance also.
Okay, balance times 2. And then second of all, like, we believe we're our feelings, and I agree with that. I think I'm very much like that way inclined, and I feel it when I go back to Nigeria and interact with my relatives there, right? Like I can say like, oh, like this is messing with my mental health, blah blah, like,
and they're looking at you like,
and they're looking at you like, you're eating, you're sleep, you're fine, you have
a roof over your head,
and you're saying
what
that
are you complaining about?
Right. Okay, again, balance, because somewhere in the middle is the truth, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then secondly, like, I have to be outwardly what I feel inwardly, because I have relatives, who can be going through things, but they're very much like, get up and keep going, right? It is what it is, right?
Ain't got time.
But like, it's like with me, oh mate, I'm depressed, I'm in bed, right? Cool. Or I'm feeling low, I'm in bed, or I'm this and that, because what I'm feeling outwardly, you must feel it like inwardly. Like I remember there's one particular relative I was interacting with, and I remember like I was really annoyed that day because I had a fight with like my partner, right? And so I was a bit off, and they were like to me, but like, I don't understand, this person has annoyed you. Why is that now something we're all like experiencing? Do you understand? Like that concept of like you're feeling something, pain or annoyance within you, but like it's being expressed for all to see is not there. And then I also agree with like that interfering with someone else's happiness is very bad. So in the West, in the UK, people let you do whatever the fuck you want, right? That ain't my business.
Yeah, if you
but
like it, I love it.
Yeah, but like in like Nigeria, like people stop you on the road, like why are you living your life the way you're living?
Why are your jeans ripped?
Okay.
Why is your nose pierced?
Funny story about why your jeans ripped. Yeah, my mum was wearing ripped jeans. Yeah.
Oh, come on, trendsetter.
She wears ripped jeans all the time, but these particular ripped jeans were like, she was a bit ahead of her time because these were like the baggy kind of ripped jeans, like the dad. I don't know if they're mum jeans or dad jeans, but she was wearing them. Boyfriend jeans, that's the one. And then my grandpa kept looking at these jeans, and he would say to her, "I don't understand these jeans you're wearing as at your age. Who tore your jeans?" Like he kept making comments. So one day she came to the kitchen, to the living room, and she was just talking, and he had enough. He took his hand and he ripped the jeans, right?
Nah, stop it.
My grandpa was strong. Like he ripped these jeans, right? So the thing with that was just a hole. It was now torn, so she couldn't wear it. And my mom was like, "Daddy." So again, it's just like for them, this thing is not
that much.
Yeah, like I'm gonna tear your pant, right?
Literally.
So he also says that LGBT interests are being pushed all over Hollywood, and they are generally a small group but are made into such a big thing, right? And I understand the whole thing about this is actually a small group because the amount of people that are LGBT, they are a minority, right? But my whole thing is that it's not being pushed. The reason why you hear about it and you speak, you see, and you whatever is because they are fighting for their rights, right?
To just be represented. Because yes, they're minority, yeah, but they're also the minority in media. Like when you deep it, yeah, like actually in real life, it doesn't make sense that there's a bunch of movies and shows and there's not one gay person in there, or there is only one gay person there, or there's one trans person. In real life, that's not representative.
Or that your rights do not allow for gay people to marry.
Exactly. Or I can't see myself represented in, because like, and maybe people don't get this because they're not minorities, yeah, but like seeing a black character or seeing like a black judge on TV or seeing like someone who looks like you on the television in just normal thingy, it's lovely, it's great. You're just like, rah, mad, you know what I mean? So I can't imagine being part of like the LGBTQI community and being like, oh, like I don't want to see myself. I never
see myself. Yeah,
like it's nice to see yourself. And also for any children out there or teenagers or whoever who are closeted or who don't, you know, or it's like especially with like dark skinned women, yeah, like dark skinned women, like seeing themselves in media, or like say for example Black Panther, seeing Lupita, or seeing like Viola Davis
whole cast.
in How to Get Away, yeah, just seeing people who look like you being celebrated, and then other people, non-dark skinned people, seeing those people in a positive light, looking at you and being like, oh rah, you look like Lupita. It's a good thing now. No one's saying to you that you look like fucking under the bed or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Or you're a slave, everyday slave.
Exactly. Django this, Django that. Like, so it's good. It has positive repercussions for everyone.
Yeah,
like I'm seeing gay representation, and now it's like I'm looking at Mitch and Cam and like, oh my god, they're amazing. Gay couple. When I see a gay couple in the mall, you know, when I see a gay couple in the shopping centre, I'm not gonna be like, oh my god, that? Like predators. Da da da. Do you know what I mean? It just normalizes it, humanizes it, and it just takes the bias that people have unconsciously or subconsciously, whatever, and like it takes that away. So yes, they should be the media. Fuck.
So now, like, Miriam is back and she's just saying that social media is pushing people to transition. These are people who don't fit in to normal like communities, so they start joining these fringe communities and they start transitioning. And whilst I agree that sometimes, like, when you're a kid that doesn't fit in, you can join like certain fringe communities online and it can influence you, i.e. like incels and stuff like that, I do not think somebody's gender identity can be influenced. Like, even if all my friends were trans, I'm not going to suddenly be like, oh, let me transition to fit in.
You're not going to be, though. I feel like maybe you wouldn't transition, because I do think like actually medically transitioning is a massive step, and I don't think anybody takes that decision lightly. But you might be like, oh, maybe I am a bit fluid, or maybe I am a bit like, sometimes I think people,
of course, I do agree.
But yeah, I do think that like to medically transition, that's a big fucking deal. Like no one's just on a whim being like, which is why when people say like, no one just woke up one day and decided, yeah, fuck it, I'm just gonna transition. That's a big fucking deal.
In this country, you can't just transition. You have to go through extensive therapy. Like I had this person I worked with that was transitioning, and I mean, I don't know if that person listens, highly doubt it, but if they do, and because when I was working with them, they were very early in their transitioning, and I met them and they identified as he, and then I think it was like 3 weeks later they were like, yeah, actually I identify as she, right? Cool. But I don't know what they are like now. But anyways, when I was talking to this person, right, they were saying to me how like it's really depressing because transitioning is very, very difficult. So like you have to go through a lot of therapy, and like the therapy is really, really difficult, like just to get like T blockers, right? So that's like testosterone blockers, and it's like this is such a basic beginning stage of your transition, but you have to go through so much therapy, and it takes so long to even get from the waiting list to therapist. So it's not like something, even if you wanted to do on a whim, those that make it all the way to the end where they're actually going through surgery are the ones that are 100% sure, because there's so many hurdles you jump over before you can transition. But then again, like even this guy saying about how like children just get to transition, right? I don't know what the process is in America, but if that is the process, because Scott was banging on about how it's just money making, and for the first time this fringe society like has a like dollar sign on their head because it costs this thing a pop, so people are making money. At the root cause, what you have is, why is your medical like sector of your society so what's the word I'm looking for, seen as a money making venture? That is, for me, that's the bigger problem. And it's not just in like trans healthcare or this or that, it's all healthcare in America, right? If your issue is that medicine is not being regulated appropriately because people are using it to make money, then the bigger problem is you have a medical sector where it's all about making money rather than patient care. Because in this country, though part of the NHS is privatized, in this country you cannot just go and transition. You have to go through extensive care and whatever, because it costs the NHS so much. So they have to be sure that for your own health and everything, that it's the right thing to do. There's a bigger issue there rather than people are just transitioning. So anyways, we learned that Matt is an anti-masker, which
unsurprising.
Republican. So he goes to speak at this, like, I don't know what it was he was speaking at, but he basically just goes on a rant. And this is when I was like, oh yeah, this guy's fucking insane. Like, I mean, I had inklings, but this was the confirmation. So he basically calls people that support trans rights pathetic cowards and children abusers and cult leaders, and that saying that he wants to they want to bring everybody into their cult and all that. So the documentary's winding to an end now. Matt writes this book about a kid who believed he was a walrus, and then a progressive mum who lets him become a walrus. The book sells out, but then it's pulled from everything. I think he only released 12 copies and bought all of them, but I could be wrong.
That's a self-promo.
Because I've never heard of this guy before today. And he goes on Dr. Phil, and he spews more of the same, saying you can't choose your gender, and he won't use the gender pronouns that people choose. And somebody is there, and they're just like one of the like talking heads or whatever they are,
the guests on the show.
Guests, yeah. She's just like, why do you fucking care so much? And this is when he says he cares about women and kids, but it's like, no, the fuck you don't, which we've already established. So it basically ends with Matt asking his wife what a woman is, and in true Republican, she is literally the dream Republican wife, by the way, blonde, blue eyes, whatever, and she basically says it is an adult human female, and that's it.
This is what I'm saying. And do you know why he didn't say this whole definition thing from the beginning? It's just like he wanted it to be like, everyone's so fucking dumb, it's an adult human female, because then he can then take female and then take that back to like, okay, well, females have XX chromosomes, and so you can't be a trans woman because you're not a woman, because you're not a female, which is what woman is. Like, it was just so like, just cantankerous. It was just like, Matt, like, why didn't you just write an essay saying, I don't believe that trans women are women, full stop? And then that would have been it. It would have saved so much time, money.
It was an hour, 34 minutes, guys. I wouldn't and I know
I watched
usually we
it on
don't say this. I couldn't Well, you know I was leading this time, so
Yeah,
I needed to be.
I was 1.5.
I know we don't usually say this, but don't watch this documentary. I mean, obviously, if you are right wing and you agree with these views, then by all means, this would be your bag.
Yeah, but if you're right wing and agree with these views, you probably didn't make it to the end of this episode. So
oh yeah, of course,
they're not here. They're not here anymore.
They'd probably wank over this doc. It's porn to them. But yeah, guys, no, don't. There was this random naked guy as well. We didn't talk about him.
Oh yeah, I mean.
And nobody was stopping to look at him, which was like, I was like, where are you that nobody like cares?
He's probably there all the time. They're like, oh, this guy again.
It's just Phil.
Like, I mean, this documentary, like, I can understand, like, you know, concerns for children being able to transition too soon. I just wish that it just focused more on
having an honest conversation about that.
Yeah, and like, because I just don't understand. Like, for me, sometimes I think maybe I'm too like understanding. Like, I could talk to anyone about anything, and for the most part I could, you know, be like, okay, I see where you're coming from, but I disagree and this is why. But with this, it was never a I understand where you're coming from, or maybe consider this instead, or actually, yeah, I can take this. I can take.
But I think cool. what you're missing is that, like, with some of these, because this is all political, right? And I don't mean to sound like pretentious or anything, but it's political because, like we've said, like, he's Republican, and for a lot of Americans, right, like this is the core of who they are. Like, this is their culture, right? So everything he believes as a Republican is tied in together. Is tied into who he is. Yeah. So it's like he can't just have a conversation with you because now you're attacking the fiber of who he is.
It's like whereas, the flat earthers. Do you remember that one that we did? And then the guy was, it's basically like, even if he decides now that he doesn't actually believe the earth is flat, so much of who he is and his brand is tied into that. He can't then just be like, oh, actually, I get what you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing. So, like, for me, I have political views, but they don't fundamentally make up who I am. I'm multifaceted, so like I can have a conversation with all types of people, and like
types of bread,
literally, and I can be like, I might not get you, but I can you know, obviously I don't like people like this because you're harmful. That's my issue with him.
There's certain things where it's like, yeah, no, absolutely not. But even though he's harmful, we're able to say, yeah, okay, cool, I hear it, I hear this bit, I get that bit, but your approach and also not entirely this. So
yeah.
Now it's time for
the real crime, I think, was the beard.
Segment where we talk about something during the documentary that may not be criminal, but we definitely consider to be a crime. My one is, there was this scene where he was trying to do like this like nightmare scene thing, and it's just bare mannequins in pink dresses in a room, and then he's like walking through it, and he's like, oh, it was just very like, mate,
documentary, man, fuck off,
mate. It was like, my brother, like, it was giving like GCSE drama.
Yeah, mine is Dr. Phil's like whole like physical vibe. So because I don't see
phenotype.
Yeah, like, what is going on, bro? Like, I really first of all, the beard is really like the mustache, yeah, because it's not beard. Sorry to all that have a beard, that is not beard. So that mustache is really like, whoa. And then it's like he has that like and it's like he shines it up every day because it literally never looks like there's ever been hair there. It's like smooth, like it's like a baby's up, like it's like an egg, and then the hair is just there, and it's like he tweezes it to perfection because it's all just, I find him quite unnerving to look at.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a choice.
No, yeah, it's a choice.
Or maybe it's not actually. Maybe this is just...
No, because like my granddad had a similar hair situation, right? Like he had just the side bits.
But normally you can see it's like there's darker. You can kind of see where the top bit normally is quite shiny, but then you can see the almost like follicles on the outside.
But that's what I'm saying. That his is like
makeup.
I don't know what the fuck is going on. He's akin to that British politician that wears the toupee. It's like that is his antichrist. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, they're on other ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, they're like
Michael Fabricant.
That's him.
He's on my Instagram. And if you go on my Instagram and just scroll, you'll know exactly who we're talking about.
He insists it's not a wig, by the way. So
he's a fucking liar, because that is it's a wig. Do you know, it's not a wig, actually. It's a toupee. It's not a toupee. It's a fucking wig. It's actually a wig. Like,
it's a dead raccoon.
Actually, it's not a wig. It's an animal. Thank you very much.
Thank you very fucking much. How dare you? How very dare you?
How very dare.
No, but that whole situation with Dr. Phil is that is my crime. I know that a lot of crimes were committed, but I know it's so annoying that this was long. I wanted to condense it, but it was such a long documentary, and there was so many talking points as well. I know. Sorry guys. Hopefully we entertained you with our digressions. Is that a word? Digressions.
Yeah. I digress. Transgressions. Oh,
no,
transgressions. Pun. I'm a poet, and I didn't even know I was rhyming those words.
I'm a poet, and I didn't even know it. But yeah, guys, don't watch this documentary, man. I know we don't usually say it, but don't.
Yeah.
And don't give this guy views, because tomorrow he's gonna be like wanking over the views and be like, oh yeah, like views, and it's like.
Right.
No.
So next, did you see the schedule? I don't know if you agree to this documentary or not.
I have not seen it.
Okay, well, we're gonna do hot coffee.
Not Kelly Rowland.
Yeah. So you know, it's actually a really interesting documentary. I started watching it. It's about basically court cases in America. They're primarily the one where this old woman spilled hot coffee from McDonald's on herself, and she sued McDonald's and she won.
Oh yeah, I remember.
So yeah, it seems really interesting so far. So yeah, we're gonna do that. I'll put the trailer at the end, but in the meantime, between time, you can find us everywhere.
Yeah, shit's getting tight. I need to slip somewhere.
You need to what?
Slip.
Yeah, mate, cost of living. Yeah,
shit's getting fucking tight.
On TikTok, 2 Girls 1 Doc podcast, at 2 Girls 1 Doc everywhere else, and 2girls1doc at gmail.com if you want to send us reviews, suggestions, thoughts, feelings, concerns, whatever it is. Share with a friend. Tell them to share with a friend, just so that more people can listen. And anything else from you, friends?
No, I'm knackered and hungry.
Same, I'm so hungry. All right then.
Right.
Till next week.
Bye.
Bye.
An 81-year-old woman has been awarded $2.9 million after she sued McDonald's.
It wasn't like the McDonald's employee took the coffee, threw it on her.
Who brings these frivolous lawsuits?
All kinds of people that are jackpot justice oriented.
The media in corporate America did a masterful job. Mrs. Liebeck became a joke.
Businesses use a number of devices to keep the public out of the courts.
In my line of work, you got to keep repeating things over and over and over again for the truth to sink in, to kind of catapult the propaganda.
I was burned so severely that they didn't think I would live.
Are you going to show me the burns?
What?
Yes, if I saw injuries like that, I would definitely take a different view of it.
She was drugged. She was raped, gang raped. She had to have reconstructive surgery, sir.
Ms. Jones has had her day in court.
4 years to fight to get in court is not a day in court.
The Appeal was a book I published. It's completely fiction, and it's completely true. It's a story of the purchasing of a Supreme Court seat in Mississippi.
It's a good payoff. You put money in a judicial race, it can have literally $1 million impact on your company.
The U.S. Chamber mounted a very, very large and expensive campaign against me.
When you're pregnant with twins, it's really important to determine how many placentas. When I went in, it should have been immediately followed up with an ultrasound.
You just want to change what happened, knowing that it was preventable.
Go to court and to sue, you have to go through a lot of trouble to do it. It affects your life. You're going to be attacked in all kinds of ways. Going to court to gain justice is heroic.